The world was a tapestry of ancient lands. Empires rose and fell like the tides. In this world, a child was born under extraordinary circumstances. His name was Samson. His birth was a miracle, a beacon of hope for the Israelites, who were under the oppressive rule of the Philistines. Samson's parents, Manoah and his wife, yearned for a child. They prayed for years. An angel appeared to Manoah's wife. The angel's message was clear. You will conceive and give birth to a son. He will be a Nazirite, dedicated to God from birth. He will begin to deliver Israel from the Philistines. The angel's words were both a blessing and a prophecy. Samson was destined for greatness. He would be different. He would be touched by the divine. He would be Israel's champion. Manoah and his wife were overjoyed. They vowed to raise Samson according to the angel's instructions. The future of their people rested on the small shoulders of their son. A new chapter in Israel's history was about to be written. Samson grew, and the Spirit of the Lord was upon him. He possessed incredible physical strength. It was a gift, a sign of his divine purpose. But this strength came with a price. The angel had declared Samson a Nazirite. This sacred vow came with strict rules. He could never cut his hair. It was the source of his incredible strength. He could not drink wine or any fermented drink. He could not touch anything dead. These rules were not arbitrary. They set Samson apart. They were a constant reminder of his dedication to God. His life was a testament to his faith and his purpose. His very existence was a challenge to the Philistines. They represented everything that the Nazirite vow forbade. Samson's strength was more than just physical. It was a symbol of God's power working through him. He carried the hopes and dreams of his people on his shoulders. He was their champion, their deliverer. He was Samson, the Nazirite. Samson was a young man when he first laid eyes on a Philistine woman from Timnah. He was smitten by her beauty. He was determined to marry her, much to the dismay of his parents. They knew that the Philistines were their enemies. They feared what would happen if their son fell into their clutches, but Samson was headstrong. He would not be deterred. On his way to Timnah, he encountered a fierce lion. The beast lunged at him, its roar shaking the ground. Samson was unarmed, but he was not afraid. He grappled with the lion, his strength fueled by the Spirit of the Lord. With his bare hands, Samson tore the lion apart. It was a feat of superhuman strength, a sign of the power that resided within him. Later, as Samson traveled the same path, he saw that bees had built a hive in the carcass of the lion. He scooped up the honey and ate it, marveling at the strange turn of events. The lion, a symbol of ferocity and power, had been laid low by Samson's strength. It was a harbinger of things to come. Samson's journey was just beginning. The wedding feast was a lavish affair. Philistine revelers filled the hall, their laughter echoing through the night. Samson, ever the enigma, decided to test his guests. He posed a riddle, wagering 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes on their ability to solve it. Out of the eater came something to eat, Samson challenged, and out of the strong came something sweet. The riddle referred to the honey he had found in the carcass of the lion. It was a riddle only he could know. The Philistines were stumped. They huddled together, whispering amongst themselves. Days passed and the answer eluded them. Finally, they resorted to trickery. They threatened Samson's new bride, coercing her into revealing the answer. Samson was enraged by their deceit. He stormed out of the feast, his heart filled with a cold fury. He traveled to Ashkelon, a Philistine city, and killed 30 men. He took their garments and gave them to those who had solved his riddle. The wedding feast turned into a bloodbath. Samson's rage was a taste of the destruction he was capable of unleashing. The Philistines had awakened a sleeping giant. They would soon learn the true cost of their treachery. Section 5. Fire in the Fields. The betrayal of his wife cut Samson deeply. It fueled his fury, turning his sorrow into a burning desire for vengeance. The Philistines had taken his wife, but they would pay a price far greater than they could imagine. Samson devised a plan, a fiery retribution for the wrong he had suffered. He captured 300 foxes, tying burning torches to their tails. With a flick of his wrist, he released them into the Philistine fields. The foxes, transformed into fiery demons, raced through the fields. The dry crops ignited instantly, flames leaping from stalk to stalk. The fire spread with terrifying speed, consuming everything in its path. The Philistines watched in horror as their livelihoods went up in smoke. The air was thick with the smell of ash and the sound of crackling flames. Samson watched the inferno rage, a sense of grim satisfaction settling over him. They had tested his patience, and now they were reaping the whirlwind. Section 6. The jawbone of a donkey. The Philistines, their anger stoked by the destruction of their crops, sought revenge. They marched on Judah, seeking to crush Samson and his people. They camped in Lehi, their army a vast, menacing force. Samson, hearing of their plans, went out to meet them. He stood alone against an army, his only weapon a jawbone from a recently deceased donkey. It was a strange weapon, crude and seemingly ineffective. But in Samson's hands, it became an instrument of divine retribution. The Philistines charged, their swords glinting in the sunlight. Samson met them head-on, the jawbone swinging with lethal force. He moved like a whirlwind, his strength amplified by the power of God. Skulls cracked, bones shattered, and bodies fell. The Philistines, overwhelmed by his ferocity, broke ranks and fled. By the time the dust settled, 1,000 Philistine soldiers lay dead at Samson's feet. The ground was littered with their bodies, a testament to the raw, unstoppable power of the Nazarite. Section 7. The Gates of Gaza. Samson's reputation as a fearsome warrior spread throughout the land. The Philistines trembled at his name. Their hearts filled with fear and resentment. They plotted to capture him, to break his spirit and end his reign of terror. One night Samson ventured into Gaza, the heart of Philistine territory. He sought refuge in the house of a prostitute, unaware that he was walking into a trap. The Philistines, alerted to his presence, surrounded the city, sealing the gates shut. They lay in wait, eager to exact their revenge. As dawn broke, Samson prepared to leave the city. He approached the city gates, his strength renewed after a night of rest. With a mighty roar, he ripped the gates from their hinges, lifting them onto his shoulders. He carried them to the top of a nearby hill, leaving the Philistines to stare in shock and disbelief. Samson had once again defied their expectations, proving that their traps were no match for his strength. He was a force of nature, unstoppable and untamable. Section 8. The treachery of love. Samson's greatest strength, it turned out, was also his greatest weakness. He was a man of passion, easily swayed by the affections of women. It was this vulnerability that the Philistines sought to exploit. They turned to Delilah, a woman renowned for her beauty and her cunning. They promised her a fortune if she could discover the secret of Samson's strength. Delilah agreed, her heart filled with greed and ambition. Delilah showered Samson with affection, plying him with questions about the source of his power. Time and again he misled her, revealing false secrets, but Delilah was persistent, wearing down his resistance with her charms. Finally, Samson, weary of her constant badgering and blinded by his love for her, revealed the truth. "No razor has ever been used on my head," he confessed, "because I have been a Nazirite, dedicated to God from my mother's womb. If my head was shaved, my strength would leave me and I would become as weak as any other man." With the secret in hand, Delilah betrayed Samson. She lulled him to sleep and called for a Philistine to shave off his hair. As his locks fell to the floor, Samson felt his strength drain away. He had been betrayed by the woman he loved, his power stripped away in a moment of vulnerability. Section 9. Redemption in ruin. The Philistines seized Samson, their victory made bitter by the underhanded way in which they had achieved it. They blinded him, putting out his eyes and forcing him to live in darkness. They chained him and threw him in prison, a broken shell of his former self. Samson languished in prison, his spirit crushed. He had been betrayed, his strength stolen, his pride shattered. He had failed his people, his God, and himself. Yet, even in his darkest hour, a flicker of hope remained. One day, the Philistines gathered in the temple of their god, Dagon, to celebrate their victory over Samson. They brought him out, blinded and shackled, to be the object of their ridicule. As they mocked him, Samson prayed. He prayed for forgiveness, he prayed for strength, he prayed for one last chance to fulfill his destiny. His prayer was answered. His hair, the symbol of his vow to God, had begun to grow back. He felt a surge of power returning to him. With a mighty roar, he pushed against the two central pillars that supported the temple. The structure groaned, its foundations crumbling under his renewed strength. The Philistines watched in horror as the temple walls began to collapse inward. The roof caved in, burying Samson and his tormentors beneath tons of rubble. In death, Samson found redemption. He had sacrificed himself to destroy his enemies and deliver his people. His story, a tale of strength, betrayal, and ultimate sacrifice, became a testament to the enduring power of faith and the unbreakable bond between a man and his God.